Episode 10. A week after he'd arrived at the Leaky Cauldron, curious to know what the crowd in the Quality Quidditch Supplies shop was staring at, Harry edged his way inside and squeezed in among the excited witches and wizards until he glimpsed a newly erected podium on which was mounted the most magnificent broom he had ever seen in his life.
"Just came out. Prototype,"
a square-jawed wizard was telling his companion.
"It's the fastest broom in the world, isn't it, Dad?"
squeaked a boy younger than Harry who was swinging off his father's arm.
"Irish International Signs just put in an order for 7 of these beauties," the proprietor of the shop told the crowd, "and they're favorites for the World Cup."
A large witch in front of Harry moved, and he was able to read the sign next to the broom. It said, "The Firebolt. This state-of-the-art racing broom sports a streamlined, superfine handle of ash, treated with a diamond hard polish and hand-numbered with its own registration number. Each individually selected birch twig in the broom tail has been honed to aerodynamic perfection, giving the Firebolt unsurpassable balance and pinpoint precision. The Firebolt has an acceleration of 150 miles an hour in 10 seconds and incorporates an unbreakable braking charm. Price on request." Price on request? Harry didn't like to think how much gold the Firebolt would cost. But he had never wanted anything as much in his whole life. Although he had never lost a Quidditch match on his Nimbus 2000, and what was the point in emptying his Gringotts vault for the Firebolt when he had a very good broom already? Harry didn't ask for the price, but he returned almost every day after that, just to look at the Firebolt. There were, however, things that Harry did need to buy. He went to the apothecary to replenish his store of potions ingredients, and as his school robes were now several inches too short in the arm and leg, he visited Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions and bought new ones. Most important of all, he had to buy his new school books, which would include those for his 2 new subjects, Care of Magical Creatures and Divination. Harry got a surprise as he looked in at the bookshop window. Instead of the usual display of gold-embossed spellbooks the size of paving slabs, there was a large iron cage behind the glass that held about 100 copies of the Monster Book of Monsters. Torn pages were flying everywhere as the books grappled with each other, locked together in furious wrestling matches, and snapped aggressively. Harry pulled his book list out of his pocket and consulted it for the first time. The Monster Book of Monsters was listed as the required book for Care of Magical Creatures. Now Harry understood why Hagrid had said it would come in useful. He felt relieved. He had been wondering whether Hagrid wanted help with some terrifying new pet. As Harry entered Flourish and Blots, the manager came hurrying toward him.
"Hogwarts," he said abruptly. "Come to get your new books."
Yes," said Harry. "I need—"
"Get out of the way,"
said the manager impatiently, brushing Harry aside. He drew on a pair of very thick gloves, picked up a large, knobbly walking stick, and proceeded toward the door of the Monster Book's cage. "Hang on," said Harry quickly. "I've already got one of those."
"Have you?"
A look of enormous relief spread over the manager's face. "Thank heavens for that. I've been bitten 5 times already this morning." A loud ripping noise rent the air, as 2 of the monster books had seized a third and were pulling it apart.
"Stop it! Stop it!"
cried the manager, poking the walking stick through the bars and knocking the books apart.
"I'm never stocking them again. Never! It's been bedlam!
I thought we'd seen the worst when we bought 200 copies of the Invisible Book of Invisibility. Cost a fortune, and we never found them. Well, is there anything else I can help you with?" "Yes," said Harry, looking down his book list. "I need Unfugging the Future by Cassandra Vablatsky.
Ah, starting divination, are you?
Said the manager, stripping off his gloves and leading Harry into the back of the shop, where there was a corner devoted to fortune-telling. A small table was stacked with volumes such as Predicting the Unpredictable, Insulate Yourself Against Shocks, and Broken Balls When Fortune Turns Foul. Here you are, said the manager, who had climbed a set of steps to take down a thick, black-bound book. Unfugging the Future. Very good guide to all your basic fortune-telling methods. Palmistry, crystal balls, bird entrails. But Harry wasn't listening. His eyes had fallen on another book, which was among a display on a small table. Death Omens. What to do when you know the worst is coming.
Oh, I wouldn't read that if I were you,
said the manager lightly, looking to see what Harry was staring at.
You'll start seeing death omens everywhere. It's enough to frighten anyone to death.
But Harry continued to stare at the front cover of the book. It showed a black dog, large as a bear, with gleaming eyes. It looked oddly familiar. The manager pressed Unfugging the Future into Harry's hands.
Anything else? He said.
Yes, said Harry, tearing his eyes away from the dogs and dazedly consulting his book list. I need Intermediate Transfiguration and the Standard Book of Spells, Grade 3. Harry emerged from Flourish and Blots 10 minutes later with his new books under his arms and made his way back to the Leaky Cauldron, hardly noticing where he was going and bumping into several people. He tramped up the stairs to his room, went inside, and tipped his books onto the bed. Somebody had been in to tidy. The windows were open, and sun was pouring inside. Harry could hear the buses rolling by and the unseen Muggle street behind him, and the sound of the invisible crowd below in Diagon Alley. He caught sight of himself in the mirror over the basin. It can't have been a death omen, he told his reflection defiantly. I was panicking when I saw that thing in Magnolia Crescent. It was probably just a stray dog. He raised his hand automatically to try to make his hair lie flat.
Oh, you're fighting a losing battle there, dear,
said his mirror in a wheezy voice. As the days slipped by, Harry started looking wherever he went for a sign of Ron or Hermione. Plenty of Hogwarts students were arriving in Diagon Alley now, with the start of term so near. He met Seamus Finnegan and Dean Thomas, his fellow Gryffindors, in quality Quidditch supplies. They, too, were ogling the Firebolt. He also ran into the real Neville Longbottom, a round-faced, forgetful boy outside Flourish and Blots. Harry didn't stop to chat. Neville appeared to have mislaid his book list and was being told off by his very formidable-looking grandmother. Harry hoped she never found out he'd pretended to be Neville while on the run from the Ministry of Magic. Harry woke on the last day of the holidays, thinking that he would at least meet Ron and Hermione tomorrow on the Hogwarts Express. He got up, dressed, went for a last look at the Firebolt, and was just wondering where he'd have lunch when someone yelled his name, and he turned.
Harry! Harry!
They were both there, both of them, sitting outside Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor. Ron looking incredibly freckly, Hermione very brown, and both waving frantically at him. Finally, said Ron, grinning at Harry as he sat down, we went to the Leaky Cauldron, but they said you'd left. And we went to Flourish and Blots and Madame Malkin's and... I got all my school stuff last week, Harry explained. And how come you knew I'm staying at the Leaky Cauldron?
Dad,
said Ron simply. Mr. Weasley, who worked at the Ministry of Magic, would, of course, have heard the whole story of what had happened to Aunt Marge.
Did you really blow up your aunt, Harry?
Said Hermione in a very serious voice. I didn't mean to, said Harry, while Ron roared with laughter. I just lost control.
It's not funny, Ron, said Hermione sharply. Honestly, I'm amazed Harry wasn't expelled.
So am I, admitted Harry, Forget expelled. I thought I was going to be arrested. He looked at Ron. Your dad doesn't know why Fudge let me off, does he?
Oh, probably 'cause it's you, isn't it?
Shrugged Ron, still chuckling.
Famous Harry Potter and all that. I'd hate to see what the ministry do to me if I blew up an ant. Mind you, they'd have to dig me up first 'cause Mum would have killed me. Anyway, you can ask Dad yourself this evening. We're staying at the Leaky Cauldron tonight too, so you can come to King's Cross with us tomorrow. Hermione's there as well.
Hermione nodded, beaming.
Mum and Dad dropped me off this morning with all my Hogwarts things.
Excellent, said Harry happily.